I'm Tori, 28 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my father called me too pretty to be his daughter, a statement that at first sounded like a compliment but quickly became a weapon, a reminder of the accusations he leveled at my mother, claiming my blonde hair and blue eyes were evidence of betrayal, proof that she had cheated on him, and somehow in his twisted narrative, I was the living proof of a crime she never committed, a child unfairly punished for someone else's imagined sins. And his insistence that I take a DNA test before he would walk me down the aisle was the culmination of years of cruelty, manipulation, and silent torment. And so when he handed me the form that Sunday night during a dinner in Fairfield, Connecticut, a dinner in a 6-bedroom Tudor-style house he loved to remind us he had built with his own hands, gleaming with restoration hardware furniture and Wedgwood china polished weekly by my mother, as if perfection could shield her from his relentless accusations, I felt a mix of exhaustion, defiance, and grim resolve, surrounded by the tense energy of my family, with my grandmother Eleanor perched at the far end of the table like a hawk scrutinizing a snake, my golden child brother Marcus staring at his plate in uneasy compliance, and my mother Diane clutching her linen napkin as though it were a lifeline, while Gerald, my father, with his rehearsed calm and cruel intention, slid the document across the oak table toward me, his ultimatum clear. Take the test, make the results public to the family, and only then would he consider walking me down the aisle, a conditional promise hanging over my head like a guillotine. And I, knowing that his cruelty followed predictable patterns, did not sign nor storm out, simply offering a quiet acknowledgement. "Thank you for the reminder, Gerald. I'll remember this." And the memory of my childhood flashed before me, the first time at 7 when I overheard him calling my mother a liar, questioning the origins of my hair, his words dripping with venom, the time at 12 when he refused to sign my school volleyball permission slip, claiming he wouldn't invest in someone else's child, while Marcus received new baseball cleats the same week, the years of watching him fund every aspect of Marcus's education, while I worked double shifts to pay for nursing school, graduating $60,000 in debt, and yet stronger, having survived without his support, all the while bearing witness to the emotional toll his accusations took on my mother, Diane, whose loyalty and love were repaid with years of unjust torment, culminating in the night she attempted to take her life, a memory that had haunted me and strengthened my resolve. And so when I finally agreed to take the DNA test on my own terms through GAN Trust, independent and confidential, with samples collected from myself, my mother, and covertly from my father via strands of hair, the anticipation, anxiety, and fear of vindication coiled tightly in my chest, knowing the truth would not just alter my relationship with Gerald, but with my own identity. And as the results came in, first revealing a 0% genetic match with both Gerald and Diane, the disbelief, shock, and vertigo of realizing not only had my father been wrong about my mother, but I was not biologically either of theirs, threatened to undo the foundation of my life, yet simultaneously promised freedom from decades of unfounded accusations, prompting a journey back to St. Mary's Hospital, the place of my birth, to uncover the truth through documents, witness statements, and eventually Margaret Sullivan, the retired head nurse whose trembling confession confirmed that on March 15, 1997, 2 babies had been accidentally switched, an error compounded by the hospital's decision to cover it up under the guise of reducing trauma, binding the staff with NDAs, and leaving 2 families unknowingly living the wrong lives for 28 years, a revelation that reshaped my understanding of family, loyalty, and identity, and prompted me to track down my biological sister, Rachel Morrison, through social media, establishing a connection that led to shared DNA testing, confirming her as the daughter of Diane and Gerald Townsend, while simultaneously confirming my own parentage as Linda Morrison's child. And when we met in person, the emotional resonance was immediate, a mirror of features, expressions, and familial traits that transcended genetics, allowing us to laugh, cry, and embrace the surreal reality that we were strangers who should have been sisters, and sisters who had been raised apart. And this convergence of truth culminated at the engagement party at Whitmore Estate, where, in front of 60 relatives, my father, Gerald, confident and arrogant, attempted to assert his narrative, only to be undone by the presence of DNA reports, witness statements, and Rachel stepping into the room, confronting him with the incontrovertible proof that not only had he wrongly accused Diane for decades, but he had also been searching for a daughter who was in fact living miles away under a different identity. And as Margaret Sullivan confirmed every detail, Gerald's carefully constructed world crumbled, leaving him on his knees, humbled, confronted with the consequences of his cruelty. And as I stood there, feeling vindication not for myself but for my mother, witnessing her reclaim dignity after 28 years of being wrongly vilified, I understood the power of truth, the endurance of love, and the resilience of family. And weeks later, meeting Linda Morrison and integrating our lives, I found a harmony between the family I was born into and the one I was raised by, culminating in my wedding to Nathan, surrounded by both mothers, my grandmother, Rachel, and the extended families, a celebration not merely of union, but of truth restored, wrongs acknowledged, and love prevailing. As my mother walked me down the aisle, a symbolic triumph of justice, understanding, and the reclamation of a childhood that had been tainted by suspicion and lies, leaving Gerald quiet, diminished, and forced to confront the legacy of his actions, while the women who had suffered silently for decades, Diane, Eleanor, and Rachel, stood tall, validated, and together we began a new chapter, one that honored the complexity of our lives, the endurance of maternal love, and the transformative power of uncovering truth, understanding that life, in its intricate tapestry of errors and revelations, could be rebuilt with honesty, courage, and an unwavering commitment to justice, ultimately forging bonds stronger than the accidents and cruelty of the past. And as I reflect on the journey from that fateful DNA test to the merging of families, I realize that identity is not merely defined by blood, but by love, loyalty, resilience, and the courage to confront the past, speak truths, and claim the life that was always meant to be ours, a life in which the shadows of Gerald's falsehoods are replaced by clarity, connection, and the extraordinary reunion of sisters, mothers, and generations, bound not only by circumstance, but by choice, compassion, and the extraordinary revelation that sometimes the most profound discoveries come when we dare to question everything we've been told, seek the hidden truths, and step boldly into the light of understanding, forgiveness, and familial unity, culminating in a life where the past informs but does not imprison us, where the pain of injustice transforms into the strength to rebuild, and where, at last, the threads of love, truth, and resilience weave together a tapestry of family reborn, celebrated, and cherished in ways no error, no cruelty, and no misunderstanding could ever diminish.